Hey everybody, welcome to another WOFOYO short. This is C-Dub. Mark chapter 3, verses 1 through 6. Again, he entered the synagogue, and a man was there with a withered hand, and they watched Jesus to see whether he would heal him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. And he said to the man with the withered hand, "Come here." And he said to them, "Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm, to save a life or to kill?" But they were silent, and he looked around at them with anger, grieved at the hardness of heart, and said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored. The Pharisees went out and immediately held counsel with the Herodians against him, how to destroy him. In verse 5, said he looked around at them with anger. He was grieved at the hardness of their hearts. And one of the things that we don't talk about quite often in our misconception of Jesus, in the way that Jesus is taught in the dear, meek, and mild Jesus, we ignore the scourge made of cords and the overthrowing of the tables in the temple. We overlook that. That was one time, man. He really had enough. But when you look at it, Jesus had certain things that would cause him to get angry. Now, we know from Ephesians 4 that Paul said, "Be angry and sin not. Don't let the sun go down on your wrath." In other words, you don't mull it over. But if it needs to be addressed, it needs to be addressed. And there's nothing wrong with addressing it. You don't get into hatred. And that's one of the key things. I believe that's quoting Psalm 4, part of it at least, also says to be angry and sin not. So they're making a distinction between anger and letting it get into hatred, which Jesus clearly classified as a sin. He was angered at the hardness of their hearts. He didn't hate them. One of the things that I brought up in one of our earlier episodes is Jesus laid this thing out. If your brother offends thee, go and talk to him. Now, the idea is sure, forgive him. And if you can, sure. But a lot of times, sometimes things need to be said, especially when men are dealing with men. If you don't give it an outlet, now if you can forgive and let go and it's water off your back, awesome. But if you need to address it, Jesus said address it with him and him alone. If he ain't listening, bring somebody else, bring a witness. If he still ain't listening and he's going to keep continuing in that which is harming you, tell it to the church, tell it to the ecclesia, the ruling body that made the decisions at the gate back in ancient Israel, and let him be to you as a heathen. In other words, you got to leave him alone. Forgive him, leave him alone. Okay? So the same Jesus that preached forgiveness also demonstrated anger when appropriate. And we need to take a look at that. What does that look like? Because I noticed something that seems to be increasing, and especially in this digital age with social media and people don't talk face to face, because there's a lot of people that are keyboard tough. It really don't bother me because even when they try and talk stuff keyboard tough to me, most of y'all don't have the guts to say it to me to my face. So you want to act tough, but you're being a coward? You're not the one I'm worried about. Now, you contrast Jesus being angry, addressing a situation head on, and then walking in forgiveness versus what happens with Cain and Abel. With Cain and Abel, Abel's sacrifice is accepted, Cain's is not. And the Lord asked him, he says, "Why are you downtrodden? Why are you distraught? If you do well, it'll be accepted. But if not, sin is at your door." One of the translations, sin is crouching at your door. Some say almost like a wild animal that's on the prowl. Have you ever seen mountain lions or cougars? Not the bar cougars either, the ones that occur out in nature. But Jesus addresses it, boom, it's done. Even when Paul's addressing certain things, when he's on trial and he's commanded to be struck, got to strike you down, you whited wall. Oh, I didn't know he was the high priest. The law says you're not to speak ill of a leader of your people. But he addressed it. In this age where everybody's afraid to confront, so they let it stew and they let it stew and they let it stew and they let it stew. And the next thing you know, you finally do have enough, or not to mention all the pills that people are on, all the social engineering through information just being driven at you in an algorithm that's meant to divide you rather than unite you. Well, eventually it's going to get to a point where you're going to blow that fuse. And next thing you know, you're doing something real stupid and you're overacting. You have gotten into hatred, all for the simple fact you didn't know how to demonstrate a little bit of godly anger. Or maybe we've preached a pussified Jesus to people that if you demonstrate any kind of masculinity at all, or any kind of toughness, and that's not what Jesus would have done. But if you read the book, if you get in the word for yourself, it paints and you keep your eyes open. And I'm telling you, don't read it with what people are preaching. Don't read it with what C-Dub's saying. Don't read it according to what Bones is saying. Read it. Look at the character of Jesus. It's something much different than that which is often preached from the pulpit. Confrontational at times. Confrontational often. And the very things that they try and engineer them to do. Oh, I'm not getting involved with that. Oh, I'm not a judge of you and your brother's property. I get involved in that. Oh, who's supposed to pay taxes to? Show me the coin. Yeah, give Caesar his stuff, give the Lord his. Make sure your heart's right. So there's all these things that Jesus is willing to confront and to confront it head on. And at times he even got angry in doing so, still did not sin. Be mindful of that. Get in the word for yourself, read it, find out what the character of Jesus is, and realize he's being led by the Holy Spirit. And in doing so, you be led by the Holy Spirit. Get in that word and act accordingly. WOFOYO.